Armchair Cinema. I'm Jason, and this is Maren.
Hey.
And we're talking about the film A Working Man with Jason Statham. Maren, what'd you think of this film?
It's a Jason Statham movie. I mean, there's only so much you can say about him.
My thoughts exactly.
So a little bit of context because, I mean, I was the one who brought up this movie's existence because I was aware of it. And the reason I was aware of it is because last year, Jason Statham came out with a movie called The Beekeeper.
A man with bee powers.
No, unfortunately not. He was
bee-themed, though.
Now tell me if this sounds familiar. It was about a person in his essentially in his retirement working a working class job keeping bees.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that someone close to him was the target of nefarious deeds. And that brought him into action and brought forth his special forces skills. I think you can see where this is going.
Bee movie?
No.
Yeah.
It's the plot. It's the same plot. I mean, it's a Jason Statham movie. Of course, it's the same plot. But I actually quite liked The Beekeeper. It was kind of fun.
I didn't see The Beekeeper. It's really not my genre. Not that I'm above action films or anything like that.
Right.
Just that it didn't really appeal to me.
Yeah, it did some cool things. It built a metaphor around bees and beehives and like Jason Statham's character being like a defender of the hive because he's part of a special, or he was part of a special like forces group called the Beekeepers. And the idea is that they protected the hive, which was obviously America, and that bees sometimes, when the queen is no longer benefiting the hive by producing children, they will shove the queen bee out. And the whole twist of the movie was that the phishing scam that targeted the kindly old woman who was letting Jason Statham keep bees on her property was a conspiracy that went all the way up to the president of the United States. So the beekeepers had to push out the queen. In this case, also, they completed the metaphor by making the president of the United States a woman. So they made it very obvious.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't like defenders of the hive, aren't they usually female bees?
I don't think so. I usually think there's only one female bee, and that's the queen. I could be wrong.
I'm thinking of ants. Pardon my stupid.
I'm no bee expert, so. But anyway, you're not talking about that much better movie, because it is a much better movie. We're talking about A Working Man. So the reason I wanted to see this is not just because I like The Beekeeper, because I like the idea of watching a movie where a guy with working class resources, you know, whatever equipment he can scrounge on the work site or whatever, is doing brutal action stuff, right? You know, I want to see him pull out a sledgehammer and whack some people's heads in, or a big old nail gun, and there's none of that.
Just things like that, everyday things.
There's none of that.
No.
There's that one fight scene at the very beginning.
Yes.
Where he tosses a bag of nails, or not, a bucket of nails into someone's face and throws a sack of concrete mix at another. But, like, that's literally it. And the rest of it, he's just doing special forces shit.
Like, the title Working Man, he could have been a proctologist. He could have been a proctologist for all it mattered.
Yeah, he could have. Absolutely.
And while he's digging around asses, he could pull out a better movie. I worked really hard on that one.
That was a good one. That was a great one.
Zing!
Zing. He just, because he got all the resources he could possibly need, because it was his boss's daughter that got kidnapped, and being a business owner, he has wealth. So he was able to give Jason Statham an unspecified large amount of money that the screenwriters could just give Jason Statham whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much the character would have spent. Because it seemed like a lot of tech.
I don't think he actually took the money. I think because he had a friend that he was getting lots of gear from.
Oh yeah, true. He did have a friend he was getting gear from. But I mean, like, he had that Bluetooth enabled screen that like hooked into the camera. He kept on his dash. That
he was special forces in England, so that's how we hand wave that.
I guess it just seemed weird that he just had all that stuff, because, you know, as in his own words, he's not that kind of man anymore. That's not what he does anymore.
He said before he slaughters hundreds of men.
Well, you know, he had a talk with David Harbour, the best part of the movie, because I love David Harbour. David Harbour played the blind friend of his, and I love David Harbour. Ever since I saw Violent Night, another great movie, another great action movie I wish I'd seen. instead of Working Man.
All these great action films that aren't this film we're talking about today.
That isn't this film. Yeah. I had a heart-to-heart with David Harbour where David Harbour just told him, "You're gonna do it," and Jason Statham was like, "You're right, I'm gonna do it," and then he went and did it. There's no character development here.
No character development, and no real plot beyond I killed a man, I went to a club and killed a man, and I went to a different club and killed a different man.
I posed as a drug dealer and then killed a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
And tossed all the drugs in just the local water supply. It's not the most ethical way.
The fish are having fun, at least.
Yeah.
This is for you, fish.
I saw it, I was like, really? That doesn't seem like the best way to dispose of drugs.
At one point, he flushes them down the toilet.
Yeah, he flushed him down the toilet the second time he got a hold of drugs because he had to keep the charade up for some reason. I mean,
I kind of lost track of the plot around that point. Just sort of.
That's fair. So the movie's almost 2 hours long.
It definitely didn't need to be 2 hours long.
It didn't need to be 2 hours long. It was 2 hours long of attempts to, I don't know, give the movie a reason to be 2 hours long?
The longer it is, the more sophisticated it is.
I guess. Because there was we got a decent look into the structure of the Russian mafia that's behind the human traffickers that stole the daughter of the land developer that Jason Statham works for. You're never going to get his character name, by the way. Neither of us know it.
No, we don't.
Because it doesn't matter. Well, actually, I do know it, but I'm going to pretend like I don't.
Jason Statham stars as Jason Statham, and Jason Statham, the working man, Jason Statham.
Yes, exactly. So we get a decent look into the structure of this, and they try to do a whole almost Baba Yaga, John Wick vibe where they're all scared of him because he's killing all of them, but it doesn't land because he's not Keanu Reeves.
And how many of us are?
Exactly. Jason Statham is not Keanu Reeves. He might want to be, but he's not.
No.
But all that's pointless because, I mean, at the end of the day, we know he's just gonna get the daughter and run away with her. And
I love the fact that they tried to give him some sort of backstory. Tried, in quotations.
Yeah.
As many quotations as you can.
Yeah.
Big fucking quotations.
You have this subplot about his custody battle with his daughter.
That comes and goes.
It comes and goes. It's not very important.
He had off-screen special training because he was in the British military or something.
Yeah, Green Beret or something.
Something like that.
It's not made very clear.
Also, his wife died and she killed herself.
Yes, while he was deployed. And
I'm crying.
And
crying so many tears.
His father-in-law, who has custody, partial custody, mostly custody, over his child, thinks that, or blames him for her death, and for very dumb reasons. He's really set out to be just a despicable human being.
And another thing that just drives it home for me is that they try to make Jason Statham look like a good guy. He's got an honest working job. Yeah. He has a very saccharine relationship with his daughter.
Yep. Very cute.
Very cute.
It's cute.
It's sure.
Although the daughter was written horribly.
No,
she was clearly written by an adult with the voice of an adult saying things that no kid would ever say.
Are you gonna kill people, Daddy? Yes, daughter, I will.
Yeah, basically. It's what it really threw me that she's just like, Daddy, can I tell you something? I'm mad at Mama for dying. It's like, no child is gonna phrase it that way. No child has the emotional intelligence to recognize that as anger and call it that bold-facedly.
Instead of therapy, daughter, I'm gonna go and kill some guys.
Yes. And that's another thing. This is such a conservative wet dream movie because
isn't it? That was another point I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, it is totally a conservative wet dream because what Jason Statham needs more than beating up guys is he does need therapy. It's pointed out to him by his attorneys at the beginning of the movie that he has untreated PTSD, and that there was another thing that they mentioned that was a mitigating circumstance to him having his daughter's custody.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you should probably be going to a therapist about that.
It'd probably be a more exciting movie as he reconciles with his daughter and the death of his wife.
Yeah, I mean, then it's not an action movie anymore.
It could be.
It could still be called a working man, though.
And he could have any job, and it would still be the working man.
Yes, it would still be a working man, not just
man.
the working. Yeah. Did you pick up, and to piggyback off on it being a conservative wet dream? Did you pick up on the production design choices that clear-coded and feminized the villains?
That's kind of par for the course for
It is,
for a lot of
absolutely.
action films, I'll say.
Oh yeah, definitely of this type. Like the guy who's behind the human trafficking arm of this Russian mafia organization was wearing all these ruffled shirts that were very garish. Mm-hmm. They looked like something you'd see out of like a Victorian period piece, which I thought was a really bizarre decision for this movie. Like, it's not a very stylized movie for the most part.
No, the editing is very jumpy, I should say. It jumps from place to place really quickly, and there's very little time to breathe.
And like most David Ayer movies, it looks like concrete, like dirty, wet concrete, which I know is David Ayer's style. It's very grounded, gritty, kind of realistic, which, you know, generally works for action movies of this type. But then you have like these production design choices, like how fucking huge the moon was. Remember that?
I'm glad I'm not the only person to remember that
sees
that.
Fucking enormous.
Jason Statham. The moon is crashing into the earth. Yeah. Forget about what's her face.
So for all of those who need a visual on this, so you know at the beginning of Nightmare Before Christmas when Jack Skellington is ascending the spiral hill, it's that big. It's that fucking huge. It takes up half the frame. In most of the shots you see it.
It's symbolic for the size of Jason Statham's ego.
Yeah, it's another thing. He doesn't get hurt in this whole movie.
Oh no,
I'm sure that was in his
invincible.
contract.
Yeah, that was that's a writer in his contract probably. Is that
Oh,
you can't
yeah.
lose a fight.
Yeah, I can't lose a fight. I don't think he lost a fight in The Beekeeper either, but at least The Beekeeper had a more interesting premise.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I couldn't even get a lot of satisfaction out of the action scenes because, to be honest, yeah, the people were bad guys, but like I didn't really feel like they were bad guys.
There's the one like leader from like the biker bar, and he's established to be some kind. He's with the drug dealer, drug dealing part, and he's established to be kind of cool.
Well, it's because he's also ex-military, and all ex-military guys have some kind of bond, I guess, or something.
Yeah. I
don't want to disparage our former service members, but it is a really annoying trope to see in movies. I find it hard to believe that there is this sort of transcendent bond between all the people who have fought in a war ever. It doesn't make sense to me.
Killing brings people together.
I guess it does. I mean,
as you rip someone apart, you find something to grab onto.
And that's when things get really gay. But yeah, so I mean, I guess it makes sense to have some sort of grudging respect between soldiers, but I didn't feel like I believed it. It didn't make sense to me in the context of the movie.
Going back to them making Jason Statham out to be this good guy.
Yeah.
I lost all respect for him as soon as he started waterboarding someone.
Oh, yeah, I was really surprised they went there, quite frankly. Because I kind of thought that after the rather vocal backlash against Zero Dark 30's treatment of torture, that other movies would be a little bit more scared to go that direction.
Not Jason Statham.
No, apparently not. Just cuts to waterboarding. That doesn't really accomplish anything, which I guess is how they feel like they could get away with it. But
he waterboards some guy and then immediately kills him.
Yeah.
And like two other guys.
And the waterboarding does not divulge any useful information at all.
Just like it does in real life.
Exactly. So, I mean, I guess they figured because it turns out to not be useful, they can get away with it like some sort of twisted Hays Code bullshit. But
there's that line near the end where he's talking to the blind guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, "We did some righteous shit."
Yeah.
Like waterboarding people.
Like waterboarding people.
I almost laughed in the theater at that.
I mean, to be fair, I don't know if the British Special Forces waterboarded people.
I don't know, but we're not experts. But
no, we aren't. We're not. We're experts.
No, as plenty of people in the comments will.
I'm sure we'll get corrected on all this shit. Yeah. And also, like, the drug dealer, ex-military drug dealer guy, his henchman had, like, samurai helmets and Viking helmets. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is up with this movie's aesthetic? It has this very grounded, realistic style with color palette that looks like drying concrete, and a really, the Bourne Identity style, rapid cut, close-up action scenes. But then you have, like, this guy has a samurai helmet, and these people are dressed like 20s flappers, and these other people dressed like they just walked out of Pride and Prejudice, and I'm like, what is up with this goddamn movie's style?
It's style. It doesn't have to be good style. It just has to be style, and it has to. It's what gives it substance.
I guess. I don't know what substance they're going for.
He beats a guy up with like a Viking helmet, and I guess that means that he's more manly than Vikings are.
I guess. Sure. We'll go with that.
And after all, isn't that what an action movie really comes down to? Is how manly the lead actor is.
I mean, not the best ones, if we're being really honest.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Die Hard is not about necessarily how manly John McClane is. It's how much he overcomes.
And at the end of the movie, John McClane admits that he was mistreating his wife.
Yeah.
It's not about him becoming the biggest badass in the world. It's about him surviving all these other badasses.
Or who I think is one of the most charismatic action heroes of all time, Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
His movies are all about him getting beaten up and then overcoming that.
That's because those aren't about Western ideals of masculinity.
Right.
They're about the funny part where Jackie Chan gets punched in the face.
I mean, among other things. He does obviously overcome, and he is the badass at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, the best action heroes get beat up, and Jason Statham doesn't get beat up nearly enough in this movie. I think that's also why I like Crank a lot more, which is probably Jason Statham's best movie, if we're being honest with ourselves. Crank, one, it's got a hell of a premise. He's generally a bad dude who's got involved with other bad dudes.
Is he a bad enough dude to rescue the president?
He's not rescuing anyone but himself. And I like that because he's been injected with a drug that will kill him if his heart rate goes below a certain amount. So it's like speed, but it's a human body, and he has to keep his adrenaline up or his body will just shut down and die. So it almost works as a metaphor for an action movie. You need to keep the audience adrenaline up and engaged all throughout, or they're just going to lose interest and die, like I did during this 2-hour movie that should have been an hour and a half.
Oh, another zing.
So yeah, watch Crank instead of this. Watch the Crank, and then if you still need more Jason Statham, watch The Beekeeper. It's a better movie than this. It's not great or anything. I'm not saying The Beekeeper is an iconic masterpiece or anything, but it's a fun enough time.
I just want to talk about how that's why I haven't spoken in a while, because I was getting my notes.
Oh yeah.
How much of this movie, like, the most important parts of it happen off screen?
Yeah, there's a lot of investigation stuff that we don't see.
Yeah, and like the part where the captured girl bites like one of the bad guys in the face, and that happens off screen.
We don't see it.
They go in the back, and then he comes back and goes, "She bit me in the face."
Yeah. I mean,
it was so awesome, you guys. You didn't see it.
Yeah, and it's not like the actress couldn't have pulled a scene like that off. We see her escape her captors briefly later, and she pulls it off fine. So it's not like they couldn't get a stunt person in there or something.
There was your movie right there. Was a girl's kidnapped, but she's taken like martial arts lessons and she escapes on her own.
Also, I'm surprised she didn't break any fingers. She has that line at the beginning of the movie where she's like, yeah, my uncle taught me to break fingers, or grandpa or whatever taught me to break fingers. And she never breaks anyone's fingers. Chekhov's gun, people.
She was bringing it up just so that, conversation. I can break fingers. That has nothing to do with the rest of this movie.
Yeah. Chekhov's gun. Fire your goddamn gun, movie. Anyway. A lot of guns were fired.
A lot of guns were
but
fired.
Not Chekhov's.
But no, Chekhov's gun remained completely unloaded while I'm here. This movie's depiction of sex trafficking.
Oh, yeah. I don't know anything about that topic.
So fucking tired of movies doing this.
Oh, yeah?
Because that's not how sex trafficking works.
Oh, yeah?
because I've looked it up. It's incredibly tragic. It's not usually the bad guy finds a girl, kidnaps her, and then some badass comes in and saves everyone by shooting guns.
Right.
No, it's here's what I wrote. I wish movies, especially action films, would stop depicting sex trafficking like this. Sex trafficking is a series of horrific events that usually begin with the victim's parents kicking them out for being gay or trans. The victim then gets dependent on someone they think they can trust who uses them to gain money. In a situation where grabbing a gun and shooting everyone doesn't fix the issue. Movies like this depict a very sensitive and complicated issue and then make it look like some moron with a gun and an alpha male psychology thinks they can fix it just by beating the shit out of people.
And gunning endless people down.
That's not how it works, and I'm very tired of seeing it depicted like this.
It's the conservative wet dream of how these problems can be solved. Do you know this is based off a book?
I heard that. A book that Sylvester Stallone apparently read.
Doesn't surprise me, considering he shares screenwriting credit with David Ayer.
You know what this means? This means Sylvester Stallone can actually read.
Shocking. I shouldn't be that mean to him. I honestly shouldn't.
He's a Trump supporter.
I mean, sure, but I shouldn't be that mean to him. I mean, I like Rocky.
Well, everyone likes Rocky.
I know. And he turned in a great performance in First Blood.
Did he? Did he really?
I think so. First Blood, I think, is a damn good movie. I don't think it's good. I don't think only Stallone could have played that role or anything, but I think he did a good job with it. But anyway, and what surprised me the most looking it up is it was written by a comics writer.
That actually doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, Chuck Dixon, which is that's exactly the kind of name you'd expect to be associated with
in comics.
Well, specifically with this kind of movie, Chuck Dixon. I thought it was a pseudonym at first until I looked into it. And unsurprisingly, he's written for Punisher primarily.
Oh, wow.
Shocking. But that's the only reason I know the character's name, because the book was called Levin's Trade. As a pun on the trade he was working and the trade he used to work.
Oh, Levin's is like his name?
Yeah, Levin Cade.
Oh, I thought it was Jason Statham.
Yeah, I know. It might as well have been, for all it mattered.
The job that Jason Statham does, the book, the movie, as depicted by Jason Statham.
Yeah. I might have run out of things. There's not that much to talk about. Mostly the stylistic choices I thought were just baffling.
Why don't you describe those baffling stylistic choices?
The big moon and the weird costume decisions I've already talked about.
Oh.
And, I mean, like, it's not... The rapid close-up, quick-cut action is not a baffling stylistic choice. That's been action status quo for a long time now. Yeah. Although we've been breaking out of it slowly but surely, but you'll get throwbacks like this every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I was especially disappointed because The Beekeeper had some really solid action scenes that weren't like this. And I was kind of hoping that David Ayer would continue. Oh! I completely forgot. The opening credits were pretty dope.
The opening credits that had very little to do with the rest of the movie.
Yeah, but they were pretty dope.
Yeah.
Like, I miss elaborate opening credit sequences in movies. You don't get them too often anymore.
I know David Fincher does that a lot.
Yeah, David Fincher does a lot of good ones. This reminded me of, like, mid-aughts James Bond.
Yeah.
Like, this felt like, GoldenEye, or... I guess GoldenEye's not mid-aughts. But, you know... the
better movies.
Better movies. Although, I'm not a huge fan of James Bond.
Still, better than a working man.
Pushing aside that point. But yeah, Die Another Day, World Is Not Enough, those with heavy CGI but with thematic imagery. It looked pretty cool. I liked the cement mixer with the grenade in there, and that was kind of cool. A little mixture of workplace imagery and warfare imagery. It was neat.
Well, I guess it's there to describe Jason Statham's character,
right?
But like, and the whole premise of the film, that it did nothing with.
Yeah,
but
that it did absolutely nothing with, because the fact that he was a construction worker meant absolutely nothing.
Like the beekeeper, he should have had construction powers.
He didn't really have beekeeping powers. Although he did use beekeeping equipment to kill people in one action scene, much like this movie, but that action scene was much longer and much more like the opening, a centerpiece of the movie, rather than, just a throwaway establishing thing.
I mean, there's so much you could do with, like, construction equipment.
It's so dangerous!
Like, you could have killed someone just because they didn't wear a hard hat.
Exactly! Could have dropped something heavy on them. Could have used one of those big old rivet guns. That would have been brutal.
Okay, great idea for this movie.
Yeah.
Every time someone died, it should have been, like, accounted as OSHA violations. And that should come up every time someone dies.
That would have been great.
Hire us. We can write your action movie for you.
It would be so much better than this. Stallone and Ayer turned in a shitty script. Say the least.
And you wouldn't have to deal with Jason Statham because we'd hire someone better.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Jason Statham can pull off a good job if he's given something good to do.
Yeah. I don't, because I haven't seen that many Jason Statham films. The last one I saw was Wrath of Man by Guy Ritchie, and that made me sad. It was so bad.
I've seen Crank. He was in a couple of the Fast and Furious movies. I've seen most of those. What else did I see him in? The Beekeeper. I mostly know him from the Fast and Furious movies. Which is, those movies are way better than people talk about them. Like, they're actually pretty solid.
It's not that I'm against action films or that I don't like them at all, but I hate the phrase, turn off your brain.
Yeah.
I fucking hate that so much. It's like, turn off your taste buds and eat the saltine.
No. Totally. I mean, you just need to, I think when people say turn off your brain, they kind of more mean embrace the suck.
Well, what they're trying to say is, don't intellectualize it. Don't think of it as a work of high art, and that's fine. Not every movie has to be high art.
Right, but it needs to engage on some level.
Yes, and I engage on movies by thinking about them really, really hard, past the point that most people care about.
Well, I mean, what you can do is you can think about the craft of the movie as opposed to the narrative and the characters.
Yes.
And that's one thing that was missing from this movie that I think the Fast and Furious movies have.
Yeah.
That there's some really well choreographed action, some really creative set pieces, but there's literally nothing in A Working Man to engage you on a filmmaking level.
It needed a gimmick. It needed something to separate it from all the other action films coming out or have come out. And there just really isn't anything that sets it apart.
The title had one! Make the fact that he is a construction worker relevant to the action scenes.
Think of how many awesome, badass names you could have had for this movie. Hard Hat Area, Concrete Jungle. Wait, that's the name for like a city. That's not The Makings of a Concrete Jungle. There we go.
But yeah, no, he needed to use construction equipment to kill people. Is basically the end of the day.
He could have buried someone in concrete.
Yeah, he could have buried someone in a foundation. That would have been dope.
Yes!
It would have been awesome. Oh, in fact, you know what? If they really wanted to include waterboarding, imagine if he had done it with concrete or plaster instead of a wet rag.
I'm trying to get this the logistics of this.
I mean, it'd make more sense with plaster than concrete.
Yeah, but like, I'm trying to... I can't breathe. There's concrete on my face.
I know. But I was just thinking, wet concrete should have just been a thing. I don't know. I don't really know how it could visually look really cool. But definitely plaster would have been pretty dope.
I mean, if they had to waterboard someone, they might as well have used construction worker stuff.
Right. If you want to have your lead character torture someone, it's such bad taste. I hated that. When that came up, I was like, really? Come on. I thought we were done with this. It's not 2002 anymore.
We did some righteous shit.
Oh, God, right. Some righteous shit.
If we're struggling to come up with anything to say, it's because this film is so insubstantial. There's nothing to really talk about beyond... Wasn't it cool when the guy killed that other guy?
Except it wasn't. That was kind of the problem. I wanted it to be cool.
Yeah, like none of these action, none of the action really stands out in my mind.
Nah.
And in fact, most of this movie doesn't stand out in my mind. It's really forgettable.
Yeah, there were like one or two like real quick moments I was like, oh, that was cool or that was brutal. Like when the guy on the motorcycle drove into the barn house and he shot him off the motorcycle and the motorcycle continued on and exploded against the wall. That was kind of neat. But
now that you've heard that, you don't need to see it.
And one of the two kidnappers, that was one actually a few times he actually used a construction tool. He used a sledgehammer and like completely shattered a guy against a ledge. I don't know if you remember that even. It was a very short moment.
You know, the kidnapping couple that kidnapped the girl.
They were weird too.
If they could, it's like they were initially conceptualized as the comic relief.
Right, and then the movie decided it didn't want to be funny at all.
Intentionally, at least.
Yes. And I don't think it was even unintentionally funny, to be honest.
Yeah, there's very little catharsis to get from this.
No, there really isn't much at all. But it's like they were supposed to be bumbling goofballs, but they weren't all that bumbling and weren't all that goofball.
If the movie was about them trying to kidnap someone and bumbling around and fucking the whole thing up, that would have been a watchable movie.
And it would have been directed by the Coen brothers.
And it would have been fucking hilarious.
Would have been fucking amazing.
Yes.
Have the Coen brothers done a movie about kidnappers?
You're kidding, right?
I mean, I've only seen like 2.
Fargo?
Okay. It's been a long time since I've seen Fargo, so I must have forgotten large portions
that's
of
where
that
I thought
movie.
you were going with that.
Yeah, no. I must have forgotten large portions of Fargo.
Oh.
I guess, yes, they did kidnap someone, didn't they?
Yes, they did, and they spent a lot of the movie with the kidnappee.
Right, that's right. One of them went through the wood chipper.
That's what it... Which is a tool you might find in a construction zone.
You're right! My God. So many missed opportunities. It sucks.
So, Maren, would you recommend A Working Man?
I would recommend The Beekeeper if you must.
So, no on Working Man.
No on A Working Man. No, not at all.
I did not have a fun time with this movie. I couldn't wait for it to be over. I texted my girlfriend right before it ended and said, wow, this movie sucks.
Yeah.
So, no, I would not recommend this film. Any closing statements, Maren? See you next time on Armchair Cinema.